You have been living inside a lie so fundamental, so deeply embedded in the way you process every experience, that it has become invisible. It's not a belief you hold. It's the lens through which you hold every belief. And it is the single reason your reality refuses to change. No matter how hard you try, no matter how many techniques you apply, no matter how desperately you want something different. You think you understand cause and effect, you think you know how it works. Something happens, and then something else happens as a result. Action produces reaction. Effort produces outcome. You do the thing, and the thing produces the result. Linear, sequential, logical. A causes B, B causes C. Dominoes falling in a straight line. And because you think you understand it, you've never questioned it. You've built your entire life strategy around it. You've built your manifestation practice around it. You've built your identity around it. And every single structure you've built on that foundation is wrong. Not partially wrong. Architecturally wrong. Built on a misunderstanding so complete that the harder you work within it, the further you move from the reality you're trying to create. What I'm about to show you are the 7 laws of cause and effect that actually govern how reality responds to consciousness. Not the version you learned in school. Not the version embedded in cultural common sense. The actual operating laws. The ones that explain why some people seem to bend reality effortlessly while others exhaust themselves pushing against a wall that never moves. Let's start with the one hiding in plain sight. Law number 1. The cause is never where you think it is. Every time something happens in your life, every result, every outcome, every circumstance you experience, you look backward along a chain of events to find the cause. You got fired, so you trace it back. The manager didn't like you, which was because of that disagreement, which happened because of that project, which failed because of that mistake. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to the result. Linear causation. And it feels true. It feels airtight. But it's an optical illusion. You're looking at the surface chain and mistaking it for the causal chain. And those are 2 completely different things. The surface chain is the sequence of physical events that preceded the outcome. The causal chain is the sequence of internal states that generated those events. And the causal chain starts much earlier, operates at a completely different level, and involves a mechanism your conscious mind cannot see unless it knows where to look. Here's what actually happened. Before the disagreement with the manager, before the project failed, before the mistake, there was a state, an internal state, a contraction in your nervous system, a belief operating below conscious awareness, a frequency you were broadcasting that said something specific about who you are, what you deserve, and what's available to you. That state was the cause. Everything that followed was the effect arranging itself in the physical world. The mistake wasn't the cause of the firing. The mistake was an effect of the same internal state that produced the firing. Both the mistake and the firing were downstream expressions of an upstream signal. You were looking at 2 branches of the same tree and thinking one branch caused the other. Neither caused the other. The root caused both. This is not abstract. Watch how it operates. A person carries a deep, unexamined belief that they are not safe in positions of visibility. They don't know they carry it. It was installed in childhood. A parent who was punished for success. A household where standing out meant being targeted. An environment where the tall nail got hammered down. That belief doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "Hello, I'm your unconscious fear of visibility." It operates silently, beneath every decision, every interaction, every moment of the day. And what it does is generate a field, an energetic broadcast, that says, "Remove me from positions of visibility." And reality complies, not maliciously, mechanically. The broadcast attracts the circumstances that match it. The person gets the promotion, and immediately begins subtly sabotaging it, not consciously. They don't decide to make mistakes. The mistakes emerge from the field, missed details, uncharacteristic errors, a sudden inability to perform at the level they'd been performing at for years. The conscious mind is baffled. What happened? I was doing so well. Nothing happened. The internal state produced the external result. That's all that ever happens. The cause was never the mistake. The cause was never the manager. The cause was never the project. The cause was a frequency being broadcast from the body of someone who believed, at the deepest level, that visibility is dangerous. And every event in the surface chain was that frequency expressing itself through circumstance. This is law number 1. The cause is never in the event chain. The cause is always in the state that preceded the event chain. And until you learn to look at the right level, the level of internal state rather than external circumstance, you will spend your entire life rearranging effects while the cause continues to operate undisturbed. Law 1 comes down to a single question you ask every time you encounter a result you don't want. Instead of asking, "What went wrong?" which sends you chasing the surface chain, ask, "What state was I in before this sequence began? What was I broadcasting? What signal was running beneath my awareness that could have generated this?" That question redirects your attention from the effect to the cause, from the branches to the root. And when you find the root, when you identify the state that generated the chain, you've found the only point where change is possible. Everything else is rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. 1 law down, 6 to go. And the next one explains why most people's understanding of manifestation is perfectly backwards. Law number 2. The effect does not follow the cause. The effect already exists within it. This is the law that separates people who struggle with manifestation from people who seem to do it naturally. And the difference is not talent. It's not spiritual advancement. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how cause and effect actually relate to each other in time. The conventional model says, first the cause, then a gap, then the effect. You plant the seed, time passes, the tree grows. You set the intention, you wait, the manifestation arrives. Cause, gap, effect, sequential, linear, temporal. But that's not what's actually happening. And the evidence for this is not just spiritual, it's physical. When a seed is planted, the tree doesn't begin to exist at the moment of germination. The tree, the entire tree, roots to canopy, exists as encoded potential within the seed the instant the seed is formed. The oak doesn't become an oak. The oak is the acorn expressed across time. The genetic code, the cellular architecture, the full blueprint of the mature organism, all of it is present in the seed. Time doesn't create the tree. Time reveals what was already contained in the cause. This principle operates identically in manifestation. When you enter a genuine state, not perform a state, not affirm a state, but actually inhabit a state with your full nervous system, the effect of that state already exists within it. It doesn't need to be created. It doesn't need to be attracted. It doesn't need to travel from somewhere else to reach you. The effect is encoded in the cause the moment the cause is genuinely established. Here's where people go wrong. They set an intention, and then they wait. They look for the effect. They scan the horizon for evidence that it's working. And that looking, that scanning, that waiting, it reveals the actual state they're in. Because a person who is genuinely in the state of having does not scan for evidence. They don't look. They don't check. They don't wonder if it's coming. That would be like planting an acorn and digging it up every morning to check if it's becoming a tree. The scanning is the state, and the state of scanning is not the state of having. It's the state of hoping, of doubting, of lacking, and that state contains its own effect. More hoping, more doubting, more lacking. The cause and the effect are one thing. The separation between them is a cognitive illusion created by the way humans process time. In actuality, the cause is the effect, unexpressed, and the effect is the cause, fully expressed. They are one event unfolding. This means something revolutionary for your practice. When you successfully enter the state of already having what you desire, when your nervous system genuinely registers the reality as present, not future, the manifestation is not on its way. It's done. The effect already exists within the state you just established. The physical world revealing it is not creation. It's revelation. It's the unfolding of what was already complete the moment you establish the cause. And this means that the gap between intention and manifestation is never about waiting for reality to catch up. It's about the degree to which you're genuinely in the state versus performing the state. If the manifestation hasn't appeared, it's not because it's delayed. It's because the cause hasn't been fully established. The state isn't complete. There's a leak somewhere, a part of your system that hasn't accepted the reality as present. And that leak is the only thing standing between the encoded potential and its physical expression. Find the leak. That's the entire practice of Law 2. Not wait longer, not try harder. Find the part of you that doesn't believe it's already done. That part is the incomplete cause. And an incomplete cause contains an incomplete effect. Complete the cause. Fully inhabit the state with no part of you standing outside it, checking, hoping, scanning. And the effect has no choice but to complete itself, because it was never separate from the cause. It was always inside it. Law number 3, every cause has multiple effects. You are not choosing just one. This is the law that explains why manifestations so often arrive with unexpected side effects, both wonderful and disturbing, and why people who don't understand this law end up creating realities they never intended. When you establish a cause, when you enter a state, set a frequency, broadcast a signal, you are not ordering a single item from a menu. You are activating a pattern, and patterns produce constellations of effects, not single outcomes. Think of it like dropping a stone into still water. You don't produce a single ripple. You produce a system of ripples, concentric circles that extend in every direction, interacting with the edges of the pool, bouncing back, creating interference patterns. Every ripple is an effect of the single cause, and you didn't choose them individually. You chose the stone and the location. The ripple system emerged from that choice. Your internal state operates identically. When you establish a state of, say, I am powerful, genuinely, somatically, with your full system, you don't just manifest situations where you feel powerful. You manifest the entire constellation of effects associated with that frequency. Some of those effects you anticipated, more authority, greater respect, bigger opportunities. But some of those effects you didn't anticipate. People feeling threatened by you, relationships shifting or falling away because the power dynamic changed, a loneliness that comes from inhabiting a level that fewer people occupy, responsibilities that match the new frequency. Heavier, more demanding, more consequential than anything you carried before. None of those side effects were mistakes. None of them were the universe testing you. They were ripples from the same stone, built into the cause, inseparable from the effect you wanted. This is why people who manifest money often simultaneously manifest money-related stress, new tax burdens, family members who suddenly need loans, friends whose attitudes shift, the pressure of managing resources at a scale they've never operated at. They set the cause. They got the full ripple system. And because they only anticipated one ripple, the rest felt like punishment. It wasn't punishment. It was physics. Multiple effects from a single cause. The law doesn't let you select individual ripples. It gives you the whole system. So how do you work with this law instead of being blindsided by it? By choosing your causes with full awareness of the pattern they activate. Before you enter a state, before you commit your nervous system to a particular frequency, ask, if this state produced its full constellation of effects, would I accept all of them? Not just the ones I want. All of them. If the answer is yes, proceed. You're choosing with open eyes. If the answer is no, look deeper. Because there may be a more precise state, a more refined cause, that produces the specific reality you want without the ripples you can't sustain. This is why I want to be rich produces a different ripple system than I am someone who generates and manages wealth with ease and integrity. The first cause is blunt. It produces money and the full chaotic ripple system of sudden wealth. The second cause is precise. It produces wealth and the capacity, the identity, the infrastructure to hold it. different stone, different ripple system, same pool. Precision of cause is everything, and most people are throwing boulders into the pool and wondering why they're getting soaked. 3 laws down. And now we arrive at the one I warned you about. Law number 4. Force reverses causation. Read that again. Force reverses causation. The harder you push toward a result, the more you establish yourself as someone who doesn't have it. And the more you establish that state, the more the universe reflects it back to you. Effort, when it comes from the energy of, I need to make this happen because it isn't here yet, is not a cause that produces the desired effect. It is a cause that produces more of the condition that made you feel you needed to force it. This is the law that the entire productivity culture, hustle culture, and self-improvement industry is built in direct violation of. And it's the reason those industries create so many exhausted, burned-out people who are working harder than they've ever worked and getting results that are diminishing rather than expanding. Here's the mechanism. When you force, when you push from a state of desperation, urgency, or need, the dominant signal you're broadcasting is not the goal you're pushing toward. It's the state you're pushing from. And the state you're pushing from is lack, urgency, not having, need. The universe doesn't read your direction, it reads your frequency. You're running east, but your frequency says, I am someone who is running. And the universe says, noted. Here is more to run from. Here are more situations that require desperation. Here is more not having to fuel the next sprint. You work harder. The results don't match. You work even harder. The gap widens. You push with everything you have. And the reality moves further away, not despite the effort, but because of it. Because the effort is the broadcast. And the broadcast is, I don't have this. Now, before you misunderstand this, before you conclude that the law says do nothing, let me be precise. Law 4 does not prohibit action. It prohibits forced action. Action that comes from desperation. Action driven by the energy of lack. Action that is attempting to create the thing through sheer force of effort, because the person doesn't believe it will come any other way. There is another kind of action entirely. Inspired action. Action that comes from the state of having rather than pushing toward it. Action that feels like expression rather than extraction. Action that is the natural overflow of an internal state rather than the desperate attempt to produce one. A person who already feels wealthy doesn't hustle with white knuckles toward money. They make decisions from abundance. They move with the calm precision of someone who knows the resources are available. They take action, often significant action, but the action is driven by clarity, not desperation, by vision, not panic, by the fullness of the state rather than the emptiness of its absence. That quality of action, action from fullness rather than from lack, is the cause that produces matching effects, because the frequency of the action matches the frequency of the desired result. Coherent signal, clean cause, precise effect. Force is the attempt to use action to compensate for a misaligned state, and it never works. Not because action doesn't matter, but because action driven by the wrong frequency amplifies the wrong frequency. It multiplies the very signal that's creating the problem. The practice of Law 4 is counterintuitive and uncomfortable. When you feel the urge to force, the desperation, the urgency, the I need to make this happen now, stop. Not because you should be passive, because that urge is information. It's telling you that your state is wrong, that you're about to take action from lack, that every ounce of effort you pour in from this frequency will deepen the pattern rather than break it. Stop. Regulate. Return to the state first. Find the frequency of having, the calm, the settled knowing, the openness, and then act. From there, from that, with the full force of aligned action behind you, which paradoxically won't feel forceful at all. It will feel like flow, like inevitability, like the most natural thing in the world. That shift from forcing to flowing, is the difference between a life that feels like pushing a boulder uphill and a life that feels like water finding its own level. The boulder doesn't want to go uphill. You're fighting gravity. Water doesn't fight gravity. It uses gravity. It flows downhill, finds the crevices, fills the valleys, and reaches the ocean without once pushing against the landscape. Be water. Stop being the person pushing the boulder. The universe was never asking you to push harder. It was asking you to change your relationship with gravity. And gravity, in this metaphor, is your state. The next law explains something you've probably noticed, but never understood. Law number 5, delayed effects are not delayed causes. People abandon manifestation practices every single day because of this misunderstanding. They set the cause, they establish the state, they do everything right. And then nothing happens. Days pass, weeks, sometimes months, and they conclude, it's not working. It is working. The effect is already contained in the cause. Law 2 told you that. But effects don't always manifest in the physical world on the timeline your conscious mind expects. And the reason is not mystical. It's structural. Reality has momentum. Your current reality, the one you see when you look around right now, is the accumulated expression of every cause you've set over months, years, and decades. It has weight. It has inertia. It has structures, physical structures, relational structures, circumstantial structures that were built by the old causes and that don't disassemble the instant you set a new one. Think of it like an ocean liner. You've been steering it in one direction for years. The momentum of that direction is enormous. Now you turn the wheel. The wheel has turned. The cause has changed. But the liner doesn't pivot on a dime. It begins to arc, slowly at first, then more noticeably, then unmistakably. But the arc takes time, not because the cause was weak, but because the mass being redirected is substantial. During that arc, during the period between the new cause being set and the new effect becoming visible, is where most people collapse. They look at the ocean and see the ship still moving in the old direction. And they say, "See? Nothing changed. The wheel doesn't work. Cause and effect is broken." The wheel works. The ship is already turning. But the turn happens at the rudder level before it's visible at the horizon level. The internal shift precedes the external evidence. That's not a flaw in the system. That's how all large systems with momentum behave. Here's what happens when you understand this. Instead of looking for external evidence that the new cause is working, you look for internal evidence. Has the state solidified? Is the new frequency becoming your default rather than something you have to consciously hold? Are you finding it easier to maintain the new broadcast? Are you reacting to old triggers differently? Are new impulses and ideas arising that align with the new direction? Those internal shifts are the effects beginning. They're the rudder biting into the water. The ocean liner is turning. You just can't see it from the deck yet. The catastrophic mistake people make here is resetting the cause during the delay. They establish the new state, wait, don't see evidence, panic, and snap back to the old state. The old frequency reinstalls. The rudder returns to its original position. The liner straightens back out and continues in the old direction. Then, weeks later, they try again. New state. Wait, no evidence. Panic, reset. Old direction reinstated. They do this over and over, sometimes for years, and then conclude that manifestation doesn't work. Manifestation was working every single time. They just kept resetting the cause before the effect had time to express itself physically. Law 5 is about sustained commitment in the absence of evidence. Not blind faith. Structural understanding. You know the ship is turning because you know the wheel has turned. You don't need to see the new horizon to know it's coming. You need to hold the wheel steady. The instruction is plain. Set the cause, hold the cause, and stop looking for the effect. The effect is not your responsibility. The cause is your responsibility. Your job is the wheel. The ocean takes care of the rest. And Law 6 explains something that, once you see it, will change how you interpret every single event in your life. Law number 6. Effects become causes. This is the law that creates loops, both the vicious cycles that trap people and the virtuous cycles that elevate them. And understanding it is the difference between being stuck in a repeating pattern and deliberately engineering an upward spiral. Here's what this law says. Every effect you experience doesn't just sit there as a finished result. It becomes a new cause. It enters your system, alters your state, modifies your frequency, and generates the next round of effects, which then become causes, which generate more effects, which become more causes. Indefinitely. Watch how this creates a vicious cycle. You experience financial lack. That's an effect, the expression of an old cause, an old state, an old broadcast. But the moment you experience that lack, it becomes a new cause. It enters your nervous system. It triggers fear. It contracts your body. It activates the scarcity frequency. And from that frequency, you generate the next set of effects. More lack, more scarcity, more contraction, which becomes the next cause, which produces more effects. The loop tightens. The spiral descends, each effect reinforcing the state that produces more of itself. This is how people get trapped in patterns that seem unbreakable. They're not dealing with a single cause producing a single effect. They're caught in a feedback loop where every effect is simultaneously a cause, each one amplifying the original signal. The pattern doesn't just repeat, it deepens, it compounds, each cycle adding more momentum to the spiral. Now watch how the same law creates a virtuous cycle. You experience something good, an unexpected windfall, a compliment, a moment of genuine connection. That experience enters your system as a new cause. It opens your body, it releases tension, it shifts your frequency toward abundance, gratitude, openness, and from that frequency, you generate the next set of effects, more abundance, more connection, more openings, which become the next cause. The loop widens, the spiral ascends. Same mechanism, same law, radically different direction. The difference is not luck. The difference is what you do with the effect when it arrives. And this is where your power lives. You cannot always control the first effect in a sequence. Things happen. Circumstances arise. The physical world presents you with events you didn't consciously choose. But you can always control whether that effect becomes a cause that continues the old pattern or a cause that starts a new one. The moment an effect arrives, any effect wanted or unwanted, you have a choice. You can allow it to enter your system unconsciously, triggering the automatic state it's associated with, which generates the automatic next round of effects. That's the default. That's the loop running on autopilot. Or you can intercept it. You can receive the effect, acknowledge it, and then choose the state you enter in response to it. Not react. Choose. Not automatically spiral into the frequency the effect would normally trigger. Consciously select a different frequency. That's called breaking the loop, and it is the most powerful application of cause and effect available to a human being. Someone insults you. Effect arrives. The automatic loop says, feel hurt, contract, broadcast vulnerability, attract more situations where you're diminished. But you intercept. You receive the insult. You acknowledge the momentary sting. And then you choose. You choose to enter the state of someone whose worth is not determined by others' opinions. That state becomes the new cause. And the effects that follow are situations that reflect unshakable self-worth. People who respond to the quiet authority of someone who cannot be diminished by words. Same initial effect, completely different causal chain, because you intercepted the loop and installed a new cause at the junction point. Treat every experience, every effect that arrives in your life, as a junction point, a fork. One path leads to the automatic loop. Effect triggers old state generates matching effects, pattern repeats. The other path leads to a chosen loop. Effect is received consciously, new state is deliberately selected, new effects are generated from the new state. You won't catch every junction, not at first. The automatic loops are fast, and they've been running for decades, but every junction you do catch, every time you intercept an effect before it becomes the automatic cause, you weaken the old loop and strengthen the new one. Over time, the new loop becomes the default. The new spiral becomes the pattern, and the reality being produced is no longer the echo of old causes, but the expression of deliberately chosen ones. One law remaining, and it's the one this entire video has been building toward. Law number 7. You are not subject to cause and effect. You are the cause. Everything up to this point has been teaching you how cause and effect works, how to read it, how to work with it, how to align your state, hold your frequency, intercept loops, and navigate the system with precision. Law 7 transcends the system entirely, and it is the law that separates people who manage reality from people who engineer it. Here is what Law 7 says. Cause and effect is a system that operates within reality. Events cause other events. States produce circumstances. Frequencies generate matching patterns. All of that is true. All of it operates with mechanical precision, and all of it applies to everything within the system. But you are not within the system. You are the one the system emerges from. This is not a motivational statement. This is a structural one. Your consciousness is not a product of reality. It is the field from which reality is produced. You are not a billiard ball being struck by other billiard balls in an endless chain of causes and effects. You are the player holding the cue. Every cause you've ever experienced, every state, every frequency, every broadcast, was generated by your consciousness, not by your circumstances. Your consciousness chose the interpretation. Your consciousness chose the response. Your consciousness chose which loop to run, even when it felt automatic, even when it felt like you had no choice. The automation was still running on software that consciousness installed. It was still a pattern that awareness, at some point, established and then forgot it had established. Law 7 is the remembering. It is the recognition that you are not downstream of cause and effect. You are upstream. You are the first cause, not the first cause of the universe, the first cause of your reality, the point from which your entire causal chain originates. The origin of every state, every frequency, every broadcast, every loop, every pattern that has ever produced an effect in your life. And when you recognize this, when you stop experiencing yourself as a thing being acted upon by causes and start experiencing yourself as the consciousness that selects which causes to activate, the entire game changes. Here's what changes specifically. When you believe you're inside the system, you navigate it. You dodge effects. You try to position yourself in favorable causal chains. You avoid negative loops. You manage reality like someone managing a maze, always responding, always adapting, always operating within the system's rules. When you recognize you are the first cause, you stop navigating the maze. You redesign it. You don't position yourself in favorable causal chains. You generate them. You don't avoid negative loops. You dissolve them at the origin point, which is your own consciousness. You don't manage reality. You author it. This is what it means to bend reality, not forcing it, not manipulating it, not wishing hard enough that it rearranges. Recognizing that reality is already an expression of your consciousness, and that consciousness, being the first cause, has the authority to change what it expresses. Law 7 is the simplest and the most demanding of all 7 laws. It requires you to hold a single recognition consistently in the face of every experience that seems to contradict it. I am not inside this. I am the source of this. This is not happening to me. This is happening from me. When an effect arrives that you don't want, you don't ask, why is this happening to me? You ask, what in my consciousness is this emerging from? And what do I choose to generate instead? When a loop activates that pulls you into an old pattern, you don't fight the loop. You return to the origin point, your consciousness, and you withdraw the energy that was sustaining the loop. You stop being the electricity running through the circuit. You become the hand that pulls the plug. When reality feels fixed, immovable, resistant to change, you don't push harder. You recognize that the fixedness is itself a reflection of a fixed state in your consciousness. Rigidity in reality mirrors rigidity in the observer. Release the rigidity inside, and the reality outside loses its grip. Not because you forced it, because the cause changed. And the cause was always you. Let me give you the complete architecture. Law 1. The cause is never in the event chain. It's in the state that preceded it. Stop chasing effects. Find the root. Law 2. The effect already exists within the cause. The state and the manifestation are one thing separated by the illusion of time. Complete the cause and the effect is already done. Law 3. Every cause produces a constellation of effects. Choose your causes with precision, not blunt force. Refine the state. Refine the ripples. Law 4. Force reverses causation. Action from lack produces more lack. Stop pushing. Establish the state first. Then act from fullness, not from desperation. Law 5. Delayed effects are not failed causes. Reality has momentum. Hold the wheel. Stop resetting the cause every time you don't see immediate evidence. Law 6. Effects become causes. Every experience is a junction point. Intercept the automatic loop. Choose the state that becomes the next cause instead of letting the old pattern choose for you. Law 7. You are not inside the causal system. You are the first cause. Stop managing the maze. Redesign it from the origin point, your consciousness. Here's what a single day looks like when you operate from all 7 laws. You wake up and you don't check the circumstances first. You don't look at your phone, your bank account, your inbox. You don't let the effects of yesterday become the automatic causes of today. You start at the origin point. You establish your state. Deliberately, consciously. Not affirmations, not wishful thinking, a somatic shift, a nervous system recalibration. You breathe yourself into the frequency of the reality you're authoring. You become the cause before you encounter any effects. You move into your day and circumstances arise. Some wanted, some unwanted. At each junction point, you practice Law 6. You receive the effect without letting it automatically hijack your state. You acknowledge what happened, you feel what arises, and then you choose, consciously, deliberately. What state becomes the next cause? What frequency do you install at this junction? The old pattern or the new one? When you take action, you check the energy beneath it. Law 4. Is this action coming from desperation or from alignment? From lack or from fullness? From, I need to make this happen, or from, this is the natural expression of the state I'm in? If it's force, you stop. You realign. You return to state first, action second. When results don't appear on your timeline, you practice Law 5. You hold the wheel. You don't scan the horizon. You don't dig up the seed. You trust the mechanics because you understand the mechanics. The cause is set. The effect is contained within it. The momentum of the old reality is still arcing. You hold, and underneath all of it, beneath every practice, every principle, every moment of the day, you hold the recognition of Law 7. I am the first cause. This reality is not happening to me. It is happening from me. I am not inside the system. I am the source of the system, and I choose what this system produces. That recognition, held consistently, is not a belief. It's an operating position. It's the difference between a chess piece and a chess player, between a character in the movie and the director, between someone subject to cause and effect and someone who wields it. The world you live in right now, every relationship, every dollar, every circumstance, every pattern, is a printout, a readout of the causal chain your consciousness has been running. You didn't know it was running. You didn't know you were the one running it. You do now. Cause and effect was never something that happened to you. It was something you were doing. unconsciously, on autopilot, from states you inherited, through patterns you never chose. Now you choose. Now the laws are visible. The mechanics are exposed. The system that was running you is now a system you can run, not with force, not with desperation, with the quiet precision of someone who understands that reality doesn't bend to will. Reality bends to cause, and cause begins where it has always begun, in you.